Hello, my name is Nicholas, and I'm a student at Ashesi University, currently studying computer science, and I'm in my second year. For my statistics course, I decided to focus on the project that seek to research into the research question that states: do Mauritians' participation in elections get affected by socio-economic statuses and geography? For this research, I used data that was sourced from Afrobarometer, which is a project that was started in 1999, and it utilizes independent researchers to try and understand and inform people in about 37 countries about the democracy that exists in their countries, the governance, social and economic conditions. And in the recent surveys, they surveyed face to face about 45,000 respondents. And from that data, I took out data that had to do with Mauritius, where I was interested in only 1,190 respondents who were of interest to me because they responded to the question of whether they voted or not. And then I used a variable employment as which was categorical, as well as location, which was also categorical. My research questions were: is there a relationship between both economic status and voter turnout, as well as is there a relationship between geographic location of residents and voter turnout? I I hypothesized that in rural areas there was going to be a lower voter turnout, while those who were poor were also going to uh, turn out more to for elections. My research was based around research that was done by other people such as Zinga and Moore, who looked into African and American and white voter turnout in the United States in relationship with geographic as a determinant. And then I also was inspired by Atmo and Friedberg, who argue that political participation in Israeli general elections is unequal according to geographic location, social, economic, and ethnic factors. And I wanted to understand whether this would also be something that exists in Mauritius. Um, and I also noticed that, according to Beden and Wichowski, um, unemployment was a factor in voter turnout, and as economic discontent was potentially leading to increased political engagement. So people were not economically stable were more likely to participate in vote. But then Barnes argues that turnout and income skew are not very closely tied. So I wanted to see if I would go with Beden or I would go with Barnes. I had data that was made and included data from all countries, so I had to subset it and take out only data that had to do with Mauritius. And from Mauritius data, I took out data that had respondents of either yes or no for whether they voted or not. So because I was interested in only those, and from there I grouped the data into whether they were employed or whether they lived in urban or rural areas. And I did in my research. There may be a relationship that existed between economic status and geographic location of residence in Mauritius, right? Of the 86.25 people that participated in the participation in the election, 44.87 of them had blue collars jobs, and unemployed individuals had only 25.04%, while those that were white collars had 30.08. We can see that already the total of those who were working is higher than the one that had unemployed people, and as such, I think that employed individuals are more likely to vote than those that are unemployed. Likewise, there were voter turnout variations across urban and rural areas. Residents in rural areas had a higher voter turnout, which was 61%, as compared to the 39% that was in urban areas. I had hypothesized the opposite, and it is also important to note that 64% of the people that did not vote were actually from rural areas, which makes it an interesting outcome, is it brings about the idea of questioning whether a location was an actual determinant and how it affected whether it was positive or negative. Then I had to do my chi-squared test to find out whether I could prove the now hypothesis, which says there is no association between job type and voting turnout. And then the alternate hypothesis was there is an association between job type and voting turnout. Having found the p-value to be less than the alpha value, which is 0.05, the conclusion was that we reject the null hypothesis. For location, the null hypothesis, which says there is no relationship between location and voting turnout, had to be, we failed to reject it because the p-value was greater than 0.05. Some things that I learned from this was that those employed had demonstrated a relatively higher voter turnout and were more willing to support their government. And then there were some limitations with my study that looked at future research should take into account, such as looking into more countries and trying to check out if these findings were universal or not. And then it should also explore underlying reasons, such as whether people who did not manage to attend voting were affected by transportation, or because they had not registered or had registered. So those are some of the factors that I did not look into.